everybody. Welcome to the May edition of the Thunderbird Community Office Hours. I'm your host, Heather, with Monica, and we're
Hello.
here with Chris to hear all about Thunderbird Pro services. So you all have heard this on various channels, and I know there's a lot of excitement about it in the community. And so Chris is going to tell us all the things about all the services.
So many services, so many services. Um,
A lot of
thank you.
services.
Thank you for inviting me. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Chris Aquino. I am on the web services team here at Thunderbird. And yeah, I will share with you a bit of information about Thunderbird Pro. So for this, I prepared a quick slide deck, which I will present now.
Sounds good.
Okay. Just confirming that Heather, Monica, you see my slides.
We can, yeah. And
Excellent.
for the audio only listeners, we'll do our best to paint a picture of what we see.
And you will also in the show notes and on our blog, we will be posting this deck. So
Yes,
if you can't quite imagine it, go to the blog and you'll be able to see everything Chris is talking about and get links to anything we mention here.
that's true.
Amazing. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so Thunderbird Pro, this has been in development for at least a couple of years now. And so Thunderbird Pro is basically a set of 4 different services that extend and enhance the Thunderbird experience. All of them are, as you would expect, privacy respecting and open source, and of course, made with love by the Thunderbird team. So those 4 services, I'll tell you a little bit about them right now. The first one is our most mature service. It's been in development for at least 2 years, probably closer to 2.5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And what is it? It's basically the way that scheduling should work. Here's how we've developed it. You've got, you log into your appointment account and you're presented with a calendar view that's showing any connected calendars you've got. Right now, I've got a screenshot that's showing my Google Calendar, though you can also connect this to, say, like a CalDAV calendar if you've got your own self-hosted Nextcloud instance. And it gives you the ability to set your open availability on your calendar, right? You might designate like, 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, or 10 to 5, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then once you've set your details for your availability, you can click a handy little button to share your link, which you then send to anybody that you would like to meet with, right? You can send it via email, you might text it to them, whatever. If you're feeling fancy, you could add it to your signature in your email. When they click on it, they are then presented with a different kind of view of your calendar where it doesn't show them like the details of your meetings, but rather it's going to show all of the available slots within those time blocks that you've designated for like, yeah, I can meet at these times. They'll click one of these slots or several of them and then confirm like, yeah, I would like to request to meet with this person. And then after confirmation, you both get calendar invitations that then get added to your calendars. And that's it. It's a handful of clicks and you've met, as opposed to the usual back and forth of like, hey, is Tuesday good for you? You know, that it gets really old really fast. But with this, we just sort of cut through all of that. It is already in beta. And if you're listening to this and you've got a browser handy, you could go to appointment.day and sign up for the beta. We are opening up more and more beta slots every handful of weeks, just to make sure that, you know, we can handle the load of users and everything's running smoothly. What we've got coming up in the works next are some improvements, basically a makeover to the UI and the user experience. Some additional calendar integrations. I already mentioned Google Calendar and CalDAV, but we're aiming for other things like, you know, the oh so popular Apple Calendar integration and some more fine-grained availability settings.
Very cool. Very cool. How many users do we have right now, out of curiosity?
I do not know the total number.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
meant to find out, but I couldn't get those before we started.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So this kind of, if it's okay, I'm gonna ask, we can ask
Yeah,
some questions before we go into the next
do
service.
it.
Um, this service sounds familiar for anyone that's like done job interviews, so, scheduling time with the recruiter. So, um, can you talk a little bit about who you envision this service being most useful for?
Yeah, we have a number of sort of user personas. I totally stole that term from our design team, that we're targeting, right? There is like the business person, like the person who works in a company has to meet with a lot of different people. That's your typical user. And we have several of those within Thunderbird who they just have full calendars and they need a better way to manage that. Some other personas that we've thought of include like small business owners. They don't have nearly the scale of meetings that, somebody like the head of Thunderbird might have, but
Mhm.
still they would like to simplify scheduling. And a third user persona is just sort of your casual user who like maybe wants to get together with a friend and they just don't want to play the back and forth game.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes it much more efficient. Yeah.
All
Monica?
right, it is helpful if I take myself off of mute. Uh, so now we kind of saw a very brief kind of walkthrough of it. Now, will it send calendar invites or reminders automatically to both parties?
So at the moment, I don't think that there are reminders, but it will do the calendar invitations. So that is like upon confirmation, then both parties will receive the event invitations.
Okay, that's helpful. So it's just, I think like the fewer kind of manual steps that you have to do to make sure after you've made this appointment that both of you remember to go to do it. That's
Right.
helpful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that so for me, I use this just to schedule like pairing time with other engineers. Very handy for that. And by default, my calendar just adds reminders to all of my events. So it's very likely that people already have this feature enabled.
Nice. Thank you.
Very cool. Um, this sounds really exciting. You said that it's in like a closed beta state. When will it be opened up to everybody?
So this,
And what I think, did you mention that there was integration with like self-hosted calendar services?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That it will be like open when the rest of Thunderbird Pro launches. And so that's happening later this summer, right? We've got to get all of our ducks in a row and then we'll launch
Mm-hmm.
them together. Wow, I've got that duck, like little group of ducklings image in my head.
Mhm.
Um,
Right, same.
and and yeah, so late summer is when this will be released to the public for like a full open beta. As far as integration with other calendars, so yeah, if for users who are self-hosting any sort of a CalDAV server, the one that comes to mind is Nextcloud, but
Mhm.
because CalDAV is an open standard, there are lots of systems that just provide this. So yeah, you can not only can you use this with that calendar that you're hosting yourself, that calendar server, you can even self-host appointment itself. So as
Yeah,
soon as,
we
go ahead. Yeah.
no, one of the people, I think it was The Verge or one of the first people who reviewed Appointment, they tested the self-hosted Docker installation, which was great.
Amazing.
Cool. Nice. Monica?
Uh, yeah, so making sure we were all finished with that. But I think we know this well at Thunderbird, working across international time zones where you have people in very different countries. from you. How does appointment handle time zones for people who are booking things with somebody who is hours different from them?
It does so very well and very carefully.
That's
Um,
good.
any anybody who anybody who's done any like if you've built a project, if you've done any coding and you've had to deal with dates and times and calendars, it's such a pain. But the services team, I can't take credit for this. A couple of the other engineers, Melissa particularly, worked on this and made it so that the like localization works properly. Like when you are
Mm,
viewing time slots, somebody else's time slot is localized to your own. So for example, I'm on the East Coast, Melissa is on the West Coast, and I make sure to pick slots that, are still good for me and for her. And it's not, it's not weird for me to do. I don't have to do any like time math because the interface takes care of it for me.
that's good. Time math is the worst.
It's so bad. Why?
Especially like with daylight savings. Come on, what is this?
Oh my gosh, those like 2 or 3 weeks where everybody's off from each other. Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Um, what about privacy? How is my availability data stored and protected?
All of that is encrypted. So any uh, when I first joined the project and I was looking at the code, I'm used to using the stack that we're using to manage the database. But instead of seeing like the oh so familiar string and number fields, like everything's an encrypted field. So
Nice.
it's it's protected at the framework level, at the database level. So like if you if something weird happened and we need to investigate it, it's like we have limited visibility into the details of your appointment data. Like we have, we're doing appropriate logging so we can see that something weird happened, but we have no idea like what is going on with your calendar, your events or anything. All of that remains private for you.
Great. That's wonderful and reassuring.
Excellent. Now, can people who don't use Thunderbird still book appointments with you via appointment?
Yes, they can. And the reason why is that Appointment was originally built and still exists as a web app primarily. I mean, it is just this website, appointment.day, and that's your currently the main and only interface for Appointment. So yeah, you don't have to be a Thunderbird user in order to use Appointment.
Excellent.
Okay. What would you say the overall reception has been for Thunderbird appointment?
Uh, we do know, so even though I don't have the exact numbers, I can tell you that there are people who've been eager for us to open up the next batch and the next batch of invitations, which has been so encouraging. And also, on the other side of that is it's not just people who are like, oh, I want to check out appointment.day. I want to use appointment. Monica, as you mentioned, there's the person who, who published the article who also investigated self-hosting. On the first day, we got we got our first contributor who also was interested in self-hosting. So not only did they start contributing to the code, but they helped, improve the documentation around self-hosting because there were maybe a few details that we didn't include. So the
That is
community itself has
amazing.
been super involved, which is awesome.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
it's so nice to see people who become users who just make that switch to contributors, and we'll talk more about that, about how to do that. Now, we've been talking a bit about the calendar UI lately. Now, will appointment eventually integrate into the Thunderbird calendar directly?
That is a very good question. It's kind of up for discussion, right?
Mm.
There's the where do you focus your engineering time? Do we want to make it more Thunderbird centric? Do we want to make sure that it's as open and available as possible? And I think that currently we're leaning towards uh, leaving it as a web app. People can host. They don't have to be Thunderbird users. Um,
Mhm.
so that's kind of TBD, but I think that for now it's just going to remain, um, sort of this companion to Thunderbird as opposed to in
Mhm.
Thunderbird.
Okay, excellent.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that was all of our questions for appointment. What an exciting service. Let's talk about the next one.
Yes. So the next one is Thundermail. Okay, get ready. Thundermail, as you can imagine, is in fact a mail service. On my screen now, I'm showing that I have Thunderbird configured to use some server whose name is thundermail.com. It's in early stages, but it it works. It's a working mail server. Uh, it does all the things you want a mail server to do, like allow you to send and receive mail. Um, right now, there's not a lot to show. So for folks wondering about what's on my screen, this is basically the like self-service hub that we're building to make so that people can administer their own mail account. It's very
Mhm.
sparse right now. It will not look anything like this in the future, but I just wanted to show that, you know, you it is going to be as easy as signing up for an account and then, hey, here are your mail settings that you can put into any email client that speaks IMAP and SMTP, but also a newer protocol called JMAP. Um, yeah, and
Cool.
that one will launch with features like right now, just the domains tb.pro or thundermail.com. We're going to host the servers in the EU. As I mentioned, it's going to launch with support for IMAP and JMAP, and probably super important for a lot of our users, encryption at rest. But yeah, the details are light on that because this is one of our I'm sorry, one of our youngest services. We've only started on this recently. Um, and I think that it's okay for me to mention it's piggybacking off of a much more mature project that uh, we're working closely with the developer of that project, um, who who's been, I mean, really amazing to collaborate with. It's the name of it is Stalwart Mail. I don't think anybody
Mhm.
minds if I say that. Um,
Yeah.
Alone is an amazing project, and again, that developer has been so great.
Yeah, that's something I think that Ryan has put out in our previous things, and I've looked at their website, and it does look pretty impressive.
It does.
And we
Yeah.
will have a link to that.
Yes. It feels like K9 and Thunderbird for Android all over again, right? Taking
Mhm.
a much more mature project and kind of helping support it and improve it. So you mentioned, and even on this slide, it says the domains are tb.pro and thundermail.com. Do I get to choose between them? Do I get both of them? What if I don't like them? I want it to be heather.me, you know?
Um, Cur- Currently, these are your choices,
Okay.
but the plan is post beta launch, we'll implement custom domains because I mean everybody loves custom domains.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. Okay, cool.
Excellent. Now, will you did mention that it will be compatible with lots of email clients. So is this going to be compatible with, so do you have to use this with the Thunderbird or do you have choice? And also, how is mobile support going to work, considering that we're kind of thinking more about mobile email clients now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The answer to that is you can bring your own email client, but either on desktop or mobile. It really doesn't matter. Again, because we're focused on standards, right? It's
Mhm.
IMAP and SMTP. So you don't even have to be a Thunderbird user in order to use this. In addition to that, you'll still on the slide, it mentions JMAP support, which for email nerds who know a lot more than me, you're probably familiar with this. I learned that this is basically this fairly new protocol for exchanging email. It is basically JSON over HTTP.
Hmm.
And um, currently, Thunderbird doesn't even support this. It's so new and so forward looking, and it's one of the reasons why again we're excited about Stalwart Mail is we're trying to build the services that are again they extend the reach of Thunderbird, um, and so yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we're very friendly to all the different mail clients.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think this is a good thing to point out because this just came out in the mobile progress report that the iOS app is going to have AMAP support.
Nice.
Mhm.
yeah, that's exciting. I want to say, as someone that's kind of helped implement some of the Exchange protocol support on the desktop side of Thunderbird, that implementing a new protocol in the existing desktop application is it's a mountain to climb. So I think doing the same thing for JMAP will probably come eventually, but it will be yet another mountain. So it's not like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just
What, you can't flip a switch and just add a new protocol?
nope, not yet. Um, I want to ask about spam filtering. Does that happen on the server side? Does it happen in Thunderbird or the email client? How does that work?
Good question. The answer is it will be on by default on the server, but if you want that second layer of spam protection, Thunderbird, of course, does its own spam detection. So yeah, you can basically double up your spam protection if you like.
Great.
Nice. Which sometimes you kind of need it because they are persistent.
They really
So
are.
yeah, what about any other filtering or forwarding options that will come by default or come as an option?
That will be post beta launch. We are working on that. Stalwart Mail does support that. What we're the holdup will be we're trying to make a nice interface for users to interact with that. You saw in the screenshot the oh so Spartan and minimal self-serve portal. Again, as we build that out and make it nicer for users to use, we'll add a section for handling like additional filtering, additional forwarding, and that sort of thing.
Nice. Now, is this and will it also include things that are really important to our users, like calendar and contact support, again via standard protocols like CalDAV and CardDAV?
Yeah. That just landed in Stalwart Mail, like I mean, very recently. I don't know the exact date, but
Ooh.
it's in the last weeks or months. Um, and so we will expose that as well. I don't think that that's a launch feature, but yeah, we want to make sure that it handles that the Thundermail mail service is full featured because, you know, not a lot of people are just using mail alone. You got to bring all of it, your contacts and your calendars.
That's great.
Yeah,
This sounds very
excellent.
fully featured.
Hmm
Yeah.
hmm
Cool. What's the next
Nice.
service?
What's the next service? The
And
next
then?
service, the next service is Send. I got to work on this from its early days, and it is our solution to encrypted file attachments. Okay, get ready. So the way that this works, we've built this as a Thunderbird extension where you click to attach a file and you'll see this new option for attaching a file as a Thunderbird send file. Once you do that, you get prompted like, hey, would you also like to add a password to this?
Mhm.
Totally optional. In either case, no matter what you choose, it will encrypt the file client side, send the encrypted file to cloud storage, and then into your mail that you're composing, instead of attaching the file itself, it attaches a link a link to the encrypted file. And so that's how we get around like, size limitations and, whatever mail service you happen to be using. Um, you don't have to deal with that. You've just added a little bit of text to your email. Along with that, you're getting end-to-end encryption. Now, I showed the Thunderbird extension, but there is a companion web application with Send, and it gives you features like you can upload into the web interface, you can manage your files here, you could delete stuff, you could grab those shareable links from the web interface. And the web interface as well as the extension, those are part of the features that we would be launching Send with. So as I mentioned, it's entirely end-to-end encrypted. The keys are never stored on the server. Um, if you want, I'm happy to go into details about how we get around that and how we exchange keys. Um, I digress. Okay, so you can also password protect. Did I mention that I worked on this since like the beginning? Optional password protection, and this is kind of important. The expiring files feature. By default, we don't have an interface for this yet, but files will, or rather the links to the files, they expire after a couple of weeks, so that, if you're sending, sensitive information like, I don't know, scans of your passport or something like that, you can safely send those out to, whoever needs them. And, let's say months down the road, they sell their laptop or something like that, and they forget to wipe their hard drive, and somebody is able to retrieve that link. That link now no longer works because that
Mhm.
Thunderbird send link has now expired.
That's really helpful.
I'm hearing kind of two really cool features that stick out to me. One is the end-to-end encryption, and one is the, I guess, lack of file size limit.
Yeah.
So, so with those two cool things in mind, who do you think is most likely to use this? Like, what kind of user is this Thunderbird Send feature designed for?
Yeah. Heather, I've thought a lot about this. Ultimately, I'm going to try to give the shorter version of this. This is basically for anybody who is sending kind of anything via email, right? Um, or as I mentioned, because you can use the web interface and grab a link and send something through, social media messaging or Signal or WhatsApp or whatever. Um, the as a lot of our listeners may know, you have no idea who's running those servers for those services. You have no idea who is able to see the content of your messages and then, grab those attachments. So, and it's not that, somebody's out to get you or you're being targeted, but rather these things are being automated. And so it's not that somebody's targeting you, it's that they're targeting the service. Or
Mhm.
they're just, like, well, if you want to run a successful phishing campaign, get as much data as possible.
Right.
Um, or other things like, oh, I sent it through my, you know, super big tech company's shareable drive. I just happen to have sent my, potentially Oscar award winning script that needs to like sent it to my producer, and now that script is being farmed for AI training, which is like, womp womp. Well, okay. So now somebody's going to prompt an AI, and basically it could spit out, the important plot twist that really makes my movie. Okay, all that said, I've just named so many different kinds of people who could benefit from this. Um, this is the canonical example that Ryan loves to give is like sending tax documents. I mentioned sending like, passports, scans of your passport.
Mhm.
There's anything that you just, you don't it's not so much that it's secret, it's that it's private. And um, this is not an example I need to give to our listeners. It's like, well, private just means you don't want to share it with everybody. Like, I'm not going to get a tattoo of my social security number on my forehead. That's for me and for specific purposes. Um, so really, I would say nowadays that it is literally anybody, and I feel like using something like send by default is just a good it's just a good practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, how is this going to work? Because I know that this is an issue that sometimes comes up in support question, that IMAP servers have their own size limit. So how will this potentially work with that?
Yeah. Wow, this was Heather's second part of the question that I totally went off the rails on the other thing. Okay, yes. So, sorry about that. The the size limit, we totally bypass it because it is getting sent to the send server, right? So, all we're doing is we're asking users to trust and investigate for themselves. Like, yeah, no, like we read the code. It is literally doing this end-to-end encryption. It is there is no code path in here that uploads uh, an unencrypted version of this file anywhere. And I can see that all it's doing to my email is attaching just this HTTPS send.tb.pro, right? This link. So it weighs along with the user like interface decoration, it's adding a few kilobytes to your email. So your whatever pre-existing file size limit, you're not going to hit it. You're not even attaching a file to your email.
Okay, but hang on. So we have this like web interface. Is there really no limit? So can I just like upload a terabyte size file?
There is okay, so there's going to be a limit because
Why a
unfortunately,
terabyte? Go for a petabyte. Come on.
I mean, yeah.
yeah, three petabytes. Why not? Um, that there will be limits because unfortunately Thunderbird doesn't have unlimited storage. Um,
Right.
Also, at some point, you know, isn't your laptop going to get tired of uploading at some point? It's just going to be like, I'm sleepy. I want to file's too big. Kidding. Yeah. So uh, to to give you a picture of the real world limits, I mean, we're running like a super underpowered like testing server. And um, as far as for technical reasons that I don't feel like getting into, like it peters out at like 2 GB. That's like that's a buffering thing that is not going to be an issue once we scale. But yeah, you're not going to hit within reason, within stuff that like people normally
Yeah,
send. Um,
right.
you're fine.
Okay. Is there a general or is there an idea of like having a general fixed size limit per account in the web UI? So like, if I have one file that's 4 gigs versus many files that kind of sum to 4 gigs, or like what is that kind of what does that look like on a
Um,
per
are
user
you
basis?
are you asking what the per user quotas might be?
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I'm asking.
Sadly, that answer is above my pay grade. I do not
Okay, no,
know.
that's
I don't know
fine.
the numbers yet.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Cool, thanks.
Uh, And another question is, we know that this is basically a continuation of what used to be Firefox Send. And we know that there were some, that there were issues that, that the service closed. How are we planning to address those to make sure that this keeps going? And also, I think this is a related issue. So, how do we make sure that even with all of these protections, that the service isn't being used for illegal content?
Yeah, that's a juicy topic. Okay.
Yeah.
The brief version is that, this, for those who don't know the history, This is a reboot. Let's call it a reboot. It's a reboot of the Firefox Send service, which got put to bed because of abuse. And the difference is that that was, like anybody, any anonymous user could upload and then share with a bunch of other anonymous users. With this, you have to have a Thunderbird account, right? You have to I'm sorry, you have to be a Thunderbird Pro subscriber
Right.
because
Hmm.
this is like, well, you're uploading, this takes space on a server, and that costs money. Like we can't give that away for free. So there are ways that we're, you know, various logging means of logging that we're like, okay, this definitely looks like abuse, right? Like, we should see it. We should at least investigate. So that's the very simple first line of defense. Um, the second thing is that because the recipients can be, you know, they don't have to be Thunderbird Pro users. They don't even have to be Thunderbird users. Um, we are we are talking about ways of preventing like, well, yeah, like what if somebody uploads something, some sort of exploitative material, and then just shares the link on, you know, whatever, wherever people do those things. Um, we are talking about for these uploads that don't have a password, right? They're literally for anybody to use. Like, um, maybe it would be reasonable for us to submit that for scanning, right? Like we the details are fuzzy here, right? Because it is end-to-end encrypted. And would we then ask the user to like, well, you're not putting a password on here. Can we submit an unencrypted version for scanning? It's not, that's actually, now that the words come out of my mouth, that's not the greatest solution.
So we're
So
exploring like different ways to
Exploring
mitigate
different.
abuse.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well
Okay.
put, well put.
Okay.
We're brainstorming, we're trying to come up with something that is still privacy respecting, um,
Okay.
within, but for the things that can be abused, how can we prevent abuse or how can we even like
Yeah.
detect abuse?
Right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a fine balance there, right? We wanna be able to enable users without enabling the bad actors, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. No,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
it's a really hard problem because philosophically, like you're either on the side of, a free and open internet or you're not. And we want to
Yeah,
be like, but yeah.
right.
Yeah. So it's
Mm.
glad that, that there is clearly a lot of thoughts being put into this. So to kind of balance those two really important responsibilities. And so thank you. I know,
Um,
yeah, I kind of threw the big question at you.
yeah. Um, I know you'd mentioned having the files expire.
Mhm.
Which is a cool idea and it also keeps the storage, reasonable because everybody's going to forget to delete things after they're not useful anymore. So how long are the files stored until they expire? Is that something that's configurable? Can I say like set it to 1 day? Can I even say like after a user has seen it, delete it like a Snapchat? I don't know.
That is in the works. I can tell you with 100% certainty that that is supported in the code.
Okay.
There are database fields for that. We haven't exposed it in the UI yet. Um, the default expiration is 15 days.
Okay.
That we'll launch
That's
with that.
reasonable.
And then later on, we'll make it configurable so you can say this can be downloaded, one time, 10 times, whatever.
Right.
Expire after 2 days,
Yeah.
etc.
Cool. Nice. I like that.
Yes. I like the 15-day default as someone who constantly forgets to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of need that.
Same.
Now, what if I go ahead and make a file and send the link, and then I realize, what if I send it to the wrong person? I'm like, crap. Can I revoke access to a file?
Yes, you can. There are controls for that in the web interface. You can just, um, you can essentially delete the share link and it's poof, it no longer works.
Good.
Nice.
So like they click on it and they're just like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just show up as a reasonable looking, a beautiful error page. It's like this
Mhm.
file doesn't, no, it's not
Beautiful
here.
error page. Love
Sorry.
that. Um, I know you'd mentioned encryption earlier and like not storing keys on the server. Without going too far down the rabbit hole, can you tell me a little bit, is the encryption client side? What algorithms are used? You said they're not sent to the server. So give me a high level just view of how
Yeah.
that works.
I mean, I do love rabbit holes, as
Just
you can tell.
looking down the rabbit hole, not
Well,
going down the rabbit
okay, cool. Yeah. We'll look down the rabbit hole. So everything's client side. We're using in order for this to work both in Thunderbird as an extension and in the web interface, we're using just the standard web cryptography APIs built into the browser with algorithms people know and love, like the AES, GCM, um, and a bunch of other letters for
hole.
other purposes, but the main one, that's the main one that we use for encrypting content. Um, the keys are stored on the client, um, and then we're doing um, what seems, I mean, it's clever, but not too clever, the way that we are passing keys along to the user. So here's the simple example that the encryption key gets wrapped. Let's call it like the key itself gets put in a box. The box gets locked with a key, a second key. Let's call that second key a password. And then
Mhm.
we put the box on the server. And so when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna download that file," the locked box gets downloaded to the, I'm sorry, or yeah, for all intents and purposes, the locked box is then um, presented to the user. And the user's like, aha, Heather told me the password. I'm going to
Mhm.
type that in. And that produces the key, reproduces the key that unlocks the box that then allows them um, the real key, and then they can download the real file and decrypt the file. Ooh,
Cool.
sorry, podcast only listeners. That was a lot. I want to draw pictures for you so badly, but
Well,
that's
we're not drawing pictures for the video people
we're
either, so
not.
it's
We're
nice and
Yeah,
not.
fair.
that's true.
Okay, cool.
It's mental
Uh,
pictures for
Mental
everybody.
pictures.
for
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
Great. Okay, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what happens if the recipient opens a link in a browser that doesn't support encryption?
Yeah. Um, this is something we considered, and then we looked at, we're like, oh, how do we do workarounds for this? That you gotta go back, like way back. You gotta go to 2014 to
Hmm.
find a browser that does not support these APIs. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, so or Internet Explorer. But if you're using Internet Explorer, you have so much malware on your computer that it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So many other
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah. It's like that is the least of your problems right there.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Oh, very cool. Oh man, I'm excited about Thunderbird Send. Um, and I think that you've done a really good job of like painting a picture, especially since you've been like involved from the beginning. And I think we're ready to talk about the fourth and final service, which also is another one of your children.
Yes. Yes.
Your mini thunder babies.
They grow up so
Thunder
fast.
babies. Oh my goodness. That's too funny.
I need a onesie. I need to see a onesie.
We have them on our merch store, I think.
Perfect. Uh,
Well, we will put a link.
I wonder if I can get one of those on my cat.
I'm just imagining
You
my
can
6-year-old wearing a shirt that says like Thunderbird Assistant, like just following me around, like, there you go,
It would
Mom.
look so good because the logo is this funny little bow tie.
try. That's
Yeah,
adorable.
it is. It is. Um, so assist. Okay, yeah, yeah. The fourth and final service. This is the it's almost as young as Thundermail. No, actually, it's even younger. Like the code base is not mature at all. What it is Thunderbird's first exploration into AI tooling. Sorry, let me clarify. Optional AI tooling for
Mhm.
Thunderbird. All
Very
right,
nice.
so for folks who can see this or can imagine this, what I've got on screen are it's basically like, oh, there's this extra little banner that's giving you a summary, right? This summaries reply generation and this thing we're calling the daily brief. These were like some easy to explore options, right? We're just trying to find our way. And yeah, that's Thunderbird Assist in its alpha form is that. It is privacy respecting, optional AI tooling that, can help you with sort through lots and lots of emails. I don't have a lot to show for this because we're we have made the decision to go beyond these like super simple features for something that's going to be a lot more valuable to our users. And in fact, so much so that this will launch after the public beta. We're
Hmm.
aiming at semantic search. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's like in plain language, you can search for like Monica can search for Chris owes me money for those, various things we did, like those restaurants we went to during Scale Conference this
Oh,
year.
yes.
Find it. And it'll just
Fun.
go through all the emails and it'll just do it. Um, but yeah, that's going to be delayed a little bit. Not Monica getting paid back for money I owe her, but rather the semantic search feature because there's some technical blockers that we're trying to work around right now, and I can talk about those more later if folks are interested. But one thing I wanted to mention is that for both the alpha version and the future version, um, your data will again. I love this so much. End-to-end encrypted, so
Mhm.
no creepy AIs farming your data. Um, and we are currently making use of a partner, a technical partner's infrastructure, their confidential remote compute. This has been a collaboration with a company called Flower.ai.
Mhm.
Mozilla Foundation is an investor in them. They've been so terrific. They have moved things around their development schedule for us in order to create this collaboration, including implementing end-to-end encryption on their end and rolling out their confidential remote compute early, just so that we can experiment and then roll it out internally because, you know, um, as we say in the South, bless his heart, Ryan was having to like prune his inbox just so he could try out the features because he gets lots of emails that has sensitive like business stuff in it, and he couldn't test assist out without doing that. So they're like, all right, here we're just going to make this happen, and so that enabled us to do these explorations. Um, but yeah, true semantic search will require running the AI models locally, and so yeah, we're working on some interesting workarounds to take advantage of like the local hardware and make it 100% like 100% private.
That's
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
So I've asked this question, I think, for most of them. What kind of user do you see this being designed for? I'm sure you thought a lot about this as well.
Um,
What's the persona?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We Okay. All right. I know my answer was overly long for the last one. I will keep this one super brief. This is for anybody who gets a lot of emails, right? Or anybody who has perhaps many hundreds or thousands of unread emails in their mailbox. You just need a faster way to sift through and find the most important things, right? Maybe you're um, through semantic search, for example, you could just ask for things that are related to what you've been communicating about recently. Like that's a very interesting use case. And I mean, it's the year 2025. Shouldn't email work like that already? Hmm. So we
Mhm.
want to enable that. Uh, just like I said for send, right? Encryption for your file attachments. I feel like this is for any user dealing with email nowadays. Just even if you're even if you're not a business person, maybe you are somebody who, you are interested in lots of things and subscribe to a number of mailing lists. The volume of data somebody has to deal with, it's so big that essentially like a language model that can help parse the information out of your inbox, that's a good tool, and in my opinion, a good application of AI technology.
Nice. And just quickly to follow up, like you said that this was opt-in, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's important to highlight. Can
Yes.
a user that has lots of emails but doesn't always want to use it, can they like turn it on, use it for a little bit, turn it off,
Yeah,
turn it
totally.
on? Yeah.
That's one of the features that we've already implemented is we can turn it on and off for individual mailboxes. You can turn it on and
Nice.
off like all together. Um, yeah, you've got control.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So, what are the requirements to use it? Say that you're interested in it, and when the comes out, what do you need?
You will just need an account with the Thunderbird services, and then you can. There's a question about how we'll roll it out. I think that basically it'll be uh, you'll see in your like extensions this feature called Assist that you can then enable.
Mhm.
And then you've essentially opted in, and you're like, I don't like it. You just flip it back off.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Um,
is there anything that you need to do to like teach it kind of like what emails are important?
So this is right now. Oh my goodness, it's so kludgy right now. I apologize. It's confession time. I uh it is currently implemented as like you tag stuff using the Thunderbird tags. Like there's an important tag and there's a later tag, and you only need to do a few. But
Mm-hmm.
under the hood, we're because we can't run local models yet. Again, that's why it's so kludgy. Uh, it's just using some basic Bayesian classifier that then's like, oh, okay, the user's
Ah.
like, oh, these are things that seem important, and these are things that seem unimportant, and that's how it. Specifically, this is import. This is used with the daily brief, which summarizes like, oh, these are recent emails in your inbox. For individual emails, not so important. And then for semantic search, it will be, uh, you know, we'll leverage much smarter algorithms and models to figure out what is and is
Mhm.
not important.
Nice.
very cool. I have been using it since I learned about it, and I wonder if in the future it will be able to automatically log me into my Mozilla account when I restart Thunderbird, because I do a lot of Thunderbird testing and restarting Thunderbird, and every time it's like, you need to log into your Mozilla account. It's like, dang it, but I just did that 5 minutes ago. Why can't it remember?
Yeah. You know what? You and me both, and I did it. I did it to myself and thus you as well. Sorry about that. That is that has to do with the key exchange. The way that
Okay.
we're handling the encryption keys between the client Thunderbird, and the server. And when I say the server, I just want to mention this for our security and privacy curious users and listeners that the like your emails. Okay, so we're Heather, the way that you're using this right now, perhaps you've wondered like, is this safe for me to use? What about like the community members who are emailing me? And
Mhm.
I assured you, yes, it is, because here's how it works. Yeah, your emails, like the email that you're summarizing or the batch of emails you're sending for the daily brief, those are encrypted client side and then sent to a server that then passes it on to some like, let's just call it like an AI compute node. Let's just call it that. That's where it gets decrypted, like at the very last moment before the model uses it. And so in this isolated environment uh, where the model is running, that is the only thing that has the encryption keys and can decrypt. So the way that we set this up, it's extra secure. And so it's almost like you get a fresh set of keys per session, which is every time you start up Thunderbird. So sorry about the re-login because key exchange happens at login.
Well, I think security is famously at odds with convenience,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's fine. That's fine.
It will get better. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry.
Okay.
The joys of being an alpha user.
Oh, that's fine.
Yup. Since this is a partnership with AI, how is their modeling different from things that people might be using, like say like Chat GPT?
Yeah, I will talk about this briefly because again, I'm going to talk about this for way too long, and
I
you know,
know, I know.
we nobody wants that. So they're a small startup. Um, they're actually a Y Combinator
Oh,
class of
really?
something something. Very cool. Okay, right. To answer your question, the way that it's different is they're running models that they trained for us for our purposes, which is kind of awesome. So they cater to us. They're using open source models that they then fine-tuned. I don't know if that's exactly the right term, but they further trained for email summarization and reply generation. So that's number
Nice.
one. Number two, they again they implemented that end-to-end encryption and the confidential remote compute environment specifically. I mean, it was on their roadmap, but they advanced it for us. So
Hmm.
they are so uninterested in farming data. They're like, that's not our business model. Like we're
Yeah.
not doing that. As opposed to some other companies where that's totally up their alley. That's kind of what they're all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so we have access. Okay. So let's talk about the cons. Um, we don't have access to the giant, huge models that can do everything. Um, but on the other hand, we don't want that.
Yeah, we don't
Mm.
need it.
We don't
Yeah.
need it.
No.
We're doing specific tasks that are centered around email. Um, One day, I hope that this, expands to like, oh yeah, it should also take into account like your calendar and your tasks and other stuff that's
Mm.
in Thunderbird. But for right now, it's sort of like the right size model for the task. Um, I, yeah, we considered a number of vendors, and yeah, a lot of them just didn't have clear language around privacy. And so
Mm.
even after we talked to them, we're like, we don't feel good about their guarantees, so we're not going to partner with them. But Flower was like, no, I mean, like, look at the code. We it does the thing, and we're like, yes, it does the thing. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, that's great. What about, so all of us are native English speakers, but what about people that are not? Does the Assist and Flower AI have the ability to span other locales?
Amazingly, yes. And I tested this just for these office hours. Um,
Nice.
I tried it in, okay, so languages I don't speak. So I actually asked a different, I asked for translations into like German and French and Spanish and Japanese to see what Assist would do. And it gave me summaries for all of those. Only for Spanish did it give me a summary in English. All of the other ones gave me the summaries in the other language, which then I had to give to a different model to double check the
Yeah.
translation. Um, but yeah, the model that Flower chose is multilingual.
That's
Excellent.
awesome.
I
Love
know.
that.
Nice. You mentioned that when we kind of chose flower, and they're like, "Yeah, you can look at our code. You can see if it's going to do the thing that you're asking that it does." Is the TB Assist repo public?
Not yet. It will be. It will be. I'm about to
Good.
migrate it to a public repo. And the only reason was that the Flower code was previously not yet open source. It's now open
Hmm.
source. We were using a
Excellent.
private mirror. Okay, mirror, they copied the code into our code base.
Right. Okay.
Um, so they were like, not yet, but now we can. We've actually moved to their public open source SDK, and so we're good to go. That's coming. I've actually got it. I should have a PR like next Tuesday to get it into our public repo.
Nice.
Nice.
Um, Kind of going back to the models, I know that you said that I can't use my own custom models locally now, but will I be able to eventually? Maybe when it's released?
Yeah, that's the plan. Um, for viewers and listeners who know a little bit about this, maybe they've played around with like Olama or other technologies for running models locally. They've been able to do that because they're just running, some piece of software like Olama um, on their operating system. Whereas the way that we've built it using web technology, which means, okay, so as a Thunderbird extension, it needs access to a GPU to run local models, which means web GPU is the API. But unfortunately, Firefox doesn't fully implement it yet. And Firefox is where we get our JavaScript engine from. So
Gotcha.
we're waiting, but we're
Okay.
also exploring some workarounds. Like, um,
Mm.
how would we? Yeah, I'm not going to get too much into this, but for now, let's just say we're exploring some other ways of running models that um, maybe it'll start off as like a little companion app, and then maybe like for real when we release it, it will be integrated into Thunderbird itself.
Okay,
TB.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, very nice. I'm glad to hear that that's like on the horizon and we're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we have these on-device and local models that can run, what other features are going to be possible at that point?
So many. Can you tell that I like to
Mm,
dream big?
I, you can.
Um, I've already mentioned like, okay, so there's semantic search for your email and hinted at like, well, no, let me rephrase that in case somebody only listens to those few seconds. We are going to have semantic search for your email.
Hmm.
And I look forward to the day that that is expanded to cover your calendar and your contacts. Um, even your RSS feeds, right? Because there's an
Mm.
RSS reader in Thunderbird.
Uh-huh.
Do we forget? We forget, but it actually works. It's there. There's even this chat feature. So
Yep.
Thunderbird, it does email amazingly well, but oh my goodness, it's capable of so many more things that I've seen the APIs for like, oh, I could access that and that and that, and I could feed it to a model, but I want to keep all of this private. It'd be better if this was a local model. Um, so imagine all of that. Imagine wanting to feed Thunderbird more and more data because you got these local models. And once you have local models, you can in fact tune it to your own personal data. And you would feel comfortable doing so because you're like, yeah, it's basically like this data never leaves my machine.
Hmm.
It can't. Somebody literally has to steal my laptop and then they have to be like familiar with untangling like the data produced by an LLM in order to make any sense of this. Um, I don't think anybody cares if I say this because this is my own personal pipe dream is like I would love to be able to create an interface for like a layperson to just create reusable AI workflows
Oh,
within
that would be
Thunderbird.
cool. Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that like if you just give a user simple tools for like, oh, I wish I could like I wish I could just it's sort of like a question that you want to ask Thunderbird, every now and then, like repeatedly, a reusable script, but easier to write than say like a filter, right?
Hmm. Mm.
Yeah, maybe something visual with, boxes and arrows. Use your
Okay.
imagination. Um,
So cool things coming with
cool
that.
things
Yeah.
potentially coming. If I
Nice.
have my way, then very cool things coming. If if I only get a little bit of this, then we get semantic search, and that's on the roadmap. So that's happening because that's what we're working on.
Nice. Um, what about encryption? So how will Assist respect my encrypted messages? I think you mentioned this a little bit, but also will it be able to work with PGP?
Yes, it does. The alpha does so today.
So
There's a
exciting.
there's a
Well,
toggle. There's a toggle in the settings where it's like allow assist to access encrypted messages, yay or nay, right? And uh, I tested it. It works, and it's great. It's like this was a request from uh, maybe some of our community members know Kai. Kai was
Mhm.
like, I want to try this, but so this was a blocker for him, and I was like, all right, we'll create a ticket, and then uh, so we got that implemented, and so yeah, it will either completely disregard um, any of your messages that have been touched by your, the PGP implementation in Thunderbird, or you're like, yeah, cool, please do summaries and reply generation and the things, do the AI things with my encrypted messages.
Nice. That's
I
exciting.
think he'll be very happy to hear that. And I think a lot of our other users will be too. So let's say you start using it and you kind of get some summaries that aren't the greatest. Is there a way to is there a way to report this?
Yeah, we've got this. I need to find a different word for this, but it's like a donate your email feedback feature because we want to make it clear to the user, like, okay, you can give us feedback, but here's how it works. There's an icon. There's a feedback icon for like thumbs up, yeah, this was really good, or thumbs down, no, this was bad. And what it does is it opens a new message composer window that shows you
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it's going to send to us, which is like, and there's a warning before you click one of them that's like, yeah, you're going to send the contents of this email. Is that okay? And so that's the feedback feature, and the way that will get used is that is going to go to that's going to become training data back at the Flower Labs, back in their infrastructure to teach the model like, yeah, this was great, or do better model. This was not good.
Right. Oh, good, good. I guess kind of piggybacking off of that, where, so that's how you would provide feedback specifically on the assist.
Mhm.
And then, I think we've asked all of our questions on this specific service, so kind of like
Mm-hmm.
scaling back, looking at all of the services as a whole. Um, where should bugs get filed for each pro service? Is there like a Bugzilla component for each, or like, yeah, so.
Yeah. The answer to that is okay. Um, we are going to have a support form for people who are like, yeah, I just want to tell you what I need to send you screenshots. I want to tell you like what happened with this product. So that is one way. For our more technically minded and oriented users, they are welcome, they will be welcome to file a ticket um, on our GitHub repo because all of this will be open source. So yeah,
Yeah,
they can directly participate.
that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that actually leads great into the next question. So besides, you know, reporting bugs, what are other ways that the community can get involved?
So they can, oh, let me show the next slide. So for folks who are eager to get involved, they can sign up for the beta launch, which is happening later this summer.
Hmm.
Um, and the address for that is tb.pro. So you just pop open a browser, go to that address, https://tb.pro. Um, and yeah, they'll be notified of like when the beta is if like in effect. Um, and I don't know the exact timing of like, okay, so like all the repos on these dates will be open source, but you know, they can always follow us on GitHub and see when we open source these,
Hmm.
as we
Right.
open source these. Um, but I think that joining the beta, um, reporting issues either via feedback form or GitHub issues, those are great ways to get involved. And I think that we have perhaps in the show notes, you'll be able to supply like links to the Matrix chat
Oh,
where
that's
folks
Hey,
can
fantastic.
we can
discuss.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
We can make
And
that happen.
then people can come to the Matrix and ask you all of their questions.
Yes. They'll
Be careful what we wish for.
so many questions about where can I get a Thunder baby onesie
Right.
Thunder
that's
baby
an adult
onesie.
size, and I'll be like,
Well, we
I'll
don't
let
have
you
that.
know.
We don't have adult size onesies, yeah.
No, no, we need the Thunderbird adult size footy pajamas. That's what
Oh,
we need.
so good. Yes.
Yeah,
All day.
Sparkles.
I would buy it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know this is a hard question, but something that I'm sure everybody listening has probably wondered. Do you have any idea on when price tiers will be announced or how much they'll be or anything that you can give listeners?
Um, I I don't know when. I
Okay,
think that that will be revealed like at the time of beta launch, maybe
that makes
shortly
sense.
after.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah. No promises there. Again, that is above my pay grade. There's
Right.
there are folks who make the business decisions who will reveal that information at the right time. Um,
Yeah,
but it's from the conversations that I've heard, it's supposed to be like extremely reasonable for the amount of like storage or the number of tokens or the number of et cetera, et cetera. Um,
yeah,
again, because we're not trying to get like rich off of this. We're just like trying to pay for server space.
Hmm.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think this whole pro services offering is exciting and I'm excited. I'm sure that all of our Thunderbird users are, anybody listening is. And thank you so
Hmm.
much, Chris, for bringing your genuine enthusiasm about each service to this call.
I
Seriously.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see your faces again. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me talk at length about all the services. Um, yeah, they've been fun to work on, and I'm so like eager to get them out into the world.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being an awesome guest. And for everybody listening, thank you for attending. And, I hope you go sign up for the Thunderbird Pro services at tv.pro. I know I have.
Yep.
And
Definitely please check the blog and show notes for links to things like Flower and Stalwart and all the repos and the major things that we mentioned.
That's right. Yep. So yeah, I guess we'll say goodbye for now. We'll have another episode next month. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Oh my,
look forward to that.
yeah. Thank you,
Hooray.
Okay.
everybody.
All right. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.